because these are young players that you're so invested in their development. So I'll let the week play out and make a decision later on that. Trust in all of our players. I trust in their ability and those type of things. I just always want to set our guys up for success, bottom line.
What if I told you that Kevin Stefanski, the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, is making one of the most puzzling decisions of his coaching career? A decision that could shape the future of the Browns franchise and possibly cost them one of the most promising young quarterbacks in the NFL today. The Cleveland Browns find themselves in a quarterback crisis. With the franchise struggling at the most important position in football, fans and analysts alike are calling for change. The decision to bench Shedeur Sanders, despite his undeniable talent, is baffling to many. The Browns head coach, Kevin Stefanski, has stubbornly refused to give Sanders a real shot, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to understand why. This isn't just about a backup quarterback being overlooked. This is about the future of the Browns. And if Stefanski doesn't change his approach soon, he might risk not only losing Sanders, but losing the trust of his fan base and possibly the entire franchise. For weeks now, Stefanski has continually referred to Shedeur Sanders as a developmental project. And while that may sound reasonable at first, the Browns are in no position to be developing quarterbacks in a season where every game matters. The reality is, the Browns are desperate for stability at the quarterback position. They've been through countless quarterbacks over the years, and after so many failed attempts, it's hard to understand why Stefanski isn't doing everything he can to put the best talent on the field, especially when it's staring him in the face.
It is wild to me how they're going to try to spin this in such a way to make it seem like they fixed Shedeur Sanders when I'm never going to look at it that way.
So it's becoming clear that the situation with Shedeur Sanders is not just about developing a young quarterback. Some insiders suggest that it's part of a bigger plan, a long-term vision for the team. But if that's true, it's a plan that many analysts aren't buying into. One of the biggest criticisms of Stefanski is that, even though the Browns are struggling at quarterback, he is sticking to a narrative that doesn't seem to fit the current situation. There is a growing sense that the Browns management and coaching staff have dropped the ball when it comes to recognizing and utilizing Sanders' potential. For a while, they held on to the idea that Sanders wasn't ready, that he still needed time to develop. But as the team has continued to falter at the quarterback position, the lack of urgency surrounding Sanders' development feels like a bigger issue than just waiting for him to mature.
Right, that initial narrative that was out there that basically Shedeur is wasting everyone's time.
Let's break this down further. When Shedeur Sanders was drafted by the Browns, many were excited. He had everything you'd want in a quarterback. Leadership, a great arm, poise under pressure, and a track record of success at Colorado. His performance in college turned heads, and the Browns seemed to be in a prime position to take advantage of that talent. But instead of fast-tracking Sanders into a competitive role, Stefanski chose to go in a different direction. At first, this seemed like part of a bigger development strategy, something that would pay off in the long run. But now, in the middle of a season where stability at quarterback is more important than ever, it's becoming harder to justify the decision to keep Sanders on the bench. This is where the disconnect between Stefanski's plan and the perception of analysts begins to show. For weeks, fans have been asking why Sanders hasn't even been given a chance to compete for the starting job, especially given how poorly the other quarterbacks have been performing. The Browns are struggling at quarterback, and yet, they refuse to give one of their most talented prospects a legitimate shot at the job. The message coming from the coaching staff is that Sanders needs to develop and that this season is about long-term growth. But how much longer can the Browns afford to wait for growth when every game could determine their playoff future?
To be mindful of our players and our players' development, and I want to make sure that I'm always doing what's best for our players and, of course, our team. But
it's worth noting that there's been a noticeable shift in the way the Browns are talking about Sanders recently. Analysts have pointed out that the coaching staff's narrative around Sanders has been inconsistent. Just a few months ago, the Browns were pushing the narrative that Sanders was not ready, that he needed more time to develop. Now, as the pressure mounts and the team continues to struggle, the story has started to shift. Suddenly, Sanders is being touted as the future of the franchise, the player who could turn things around. This flip-flop in messaging raises serious questions about the Browns' true intentions.
Dylan Gabriel unable to finish the job as Vikings win 21-17 on the last play of the game, last drive. So As I said before,
Some analysts believe that this sudden change in narrative is a calculated move, a way for the Browns to shift the conversation before things get worse. But the question remains, why wait so long to back Sanders? Why did they allow the media to perpetuate a narrative that painted him as unworthy of the starting role for so long? If the Browns truly believed in Sanders as a future star, why wasn't he given the chance to show what he could do earlier in the season? It's hard to ignore the fact that other young players, like Quinshon Judkins.
But it's not just analysts who are questioning Stefanski's decisions. Fans are growing increasingly frustrated with the lack of transparency and action. The Browns fan base has been patient, but they can see what's happening. They can see that the team is failing at quarterback, and they know that Sanders could be the answer. They want to see him on the field, competing for the job. But Stefanski continues to ignore that call. Instead of giving Sanders the opportunity to prove himself, Stefanski is sticking to the same tired excuses, that Sanders isn't ready, that he's not developed enough. But how much longer can the Browns afford to keep making excuses? How much longer will they continue to sit on their hands while the quarterback situation continues to crumble?
If it's not Shedeur, I do think it's disappointing. I do think it's a question of why not? We've gone through this. Okay, Gabriel, if it's not Shedeur, because we know it's very much so pointing to the future in Cleveland, what's going on that Shedeur hasn't done enough or shown enough or displayed himself enough to be the backup quarterback in a season where we all know it's only about, are any of those guys good?
As the pressure on Stefanski and the Browns continues to build, one thing is clear. This isn't just about one player. This is about the future of the Browns franchise. If Stefanski doesn't make a move soon, he risks losing not just Shedeur Sanders, but the trust of his fan base and the credibility of the entire organization. It's already becoming clear that other teams are taking notice of Sanders' situation. Recently, Stephen A. Smith dropped a bombshell when he revealed that Damian Lillard had reportedly recommended that the Las Vegas Raiders bring in Shedeur Sanders to fill their quarterback spot. Lillard, who has an inside view of the sports world, believes that Sanders could thrive with the Raiders, a team that has also struggled at quarterback. According to Smith, if this trade were to happen, it could be a game-changer for Sanders' career. The Raiders could provide the perfect environment for him to develop and flourish, something the Browns have failed to offer.
I don't know if y'all know the news, if y'all saw the news. Damian Lillard, Dame Dollar. Damian Lillard's from Oakland, California, and that makes him a Raiders fan. And he was imploring the Raiders to trade for Shedeur Sanders. I got to admit, after watching Geno Smith, I don't blame him one bit. The man's got...
Stephen A. Smith has been a firm believer in Shedeur Sanders from the start, and he didn't hold back when discussing the Raiders' potential interest. He argued that Sanders has the charisma, the poise, and the ability to perform in high-pressure situations, which would make him a perfect fit for a team like the Raiders. If the Browns continue to hold Sanders back, they could find themselves looking at a future where Sanders is thriving on another team while they're left scrambling to find another solution.
I don't know how good Shedeur Sanders is going to be. I know I believe in the brother. I know I wouldn't mind seeing him in Las Vegas. I know I wouldn't mind seeing him in the bright lights on center stage because he got that kind of swag with him. I definitely feel that way, but I'm here to tell you right now, when I look at it and I look at him, I got to tell you something. I don't mind that suggestion.
And that's the real risk the Browns face. Losing Sanders, and in the process, losing their shot at securing a future franchise quarterback.
At the end of the day, Kevin Stefanski is gambling with Shedeur Sanders' future.
He's playing a dangerous game, and if he doesn't make a move soon, he may lose more than just a quarterback. He could lose the future of the Browns franchise. The clock is ticking, and the pressure is only going to mount as the season progresses. So what do you think? Is Stefanski's approach really about development, or is it a case of stubbornness and missed opportunities? Will Shedeur get his shot, or will the Browns' failure to act cost them everything? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear from you.